Now to that dispute between Wales Rugby Union and the players over contracts. Team announcement for the game against England on Saturday was scheduled for midday. That has now changed. Let's go live to James Cole, who's in Cardiff for us. James, good afternoon to you. Why has this announcement been delayed then?
Hi Rob, we'll be hearing from Warren Gatland very shortly, but clearly he doesn't feel he can name a team to play England on Saturday confidently because the players are threatening to strike. If they don't agree terms tomorrow in a big meeting with the WRU, the players are saying they will not train on Thursday and Friday. Gatland clearly feels he can't name a side, and in naming a side, it would almost undervalue this threat of striking. It would almost devalue the reality of the players not playing if they're named in a team today. I suspect that's why Warren Gatland's done it, but we will hear from him shortly, as I say. Just to give you the background to this, the players want 3 terms to be agreed by the WRU, and this surrounds uncertainty over future contracts. Now, those 3 terms are this. 1, that the 60 cap rule is scrapped. This is a rule whereby only players with 60 caps or more can play their domestic rugby outside of Wales and still play for Wales. That is set to be either scrapped or amended, so that will be met. The second term is that the players have representation on the PRG, the Professional Rugby, the PRB, the Professional Rugby Board. Now that, at the moment, doesn't happen. The players don't have any representation. Decisions are made about Welsh rugby without player impetus. They want representation. That is also set to happen. But the third term is the sticking point. It's around contracts, and the new contracts are set to be brought in as of the end of this season. Next season, they are fixed variable contracts. That will mean that players will receive 80% of their salary fixed, but then 20% of their salary will be variable based on win bonuses, etc. The players aren't happy with that. They say that's not manageable, and that is the sticking point. They need to find agreement on that tomorrow, or as they say, the players say they will not train Thursday or Friday and will not play England in Cardiff on Saturday.
So the clock is ticking. Is there a real chance the game against England could be called off?
The million-dollar question. If you'd asked me last week, I'd have said this is sabre-rattling, potentially. This is to get a deal on the table, to get feet round the table and negotiate with the WRU. But now that we've got to this point, Wednesday ahead of Saturday, and Warren Gatland has had to cancel his team announcement, I'd say there's an absolute reality of this happening if they cannot agree terms tomorrow. The fact that Gatland has made this big call clearly means he's not sure that the game will go ahead, and he believes the players' threat to strike. So yes, I'd say there's a very real possibility of that fact. We'll know a lot more tomorrow when these meetings take place, and indeed on Thursday when, if a resolution hasn't been made, Wales will not be training. So this story will move very quickly and in a big direction one way or the other over the next 48 hours. It's almost a case of who blinks first. This game is worth a lot of money to the WRU, £9 million. They can almost not afford for it not to go ahead.
James, thank you very much indeed. OK, let's get more on this. As we can see, World Cup winner Will Greenwood joins us in the studio. Lovely to see you.
Yeah.
With what is actually quite a sad story here, isn't it?
Yeah.
OK. You heard what James was saying there. What percentage chances do you give this game of going ahead?
I would be staggered if it didn't take place. I come from a position of being part of an international team that went on strike in 2000 for about 3 days, and I think one of the things that James brilliantly described the situation going on, the 3-part process of representation, 60 caps and breakdown and payment. What needs to be mentioned as well is there's sort of 3 people in this marriage. There's the unions, there's the region, there's the union, then the regions, and then the players in it who all are fighting about, not fighting, but discussing different components of the 3 prongs that James brought to life. But the underlying sense from me, and the reason we turned up back in camp at Penny Hill Park in 2000, 48 hours before we played Argentina, having walked out, was the very real understanding that you'll always be remembered as the player who walked out on your country. And we were striking, it sounds a paltry amount, we were striking over £250. We were also striking about a fixed part and a variable part. It is repeating itself 23 years later. Players obviously wanting to have more fixed component to their wages so they can guarantee mortgages and bills and school fees or whatever it might be that they have to to try and find, and they always feel once variable comes into it, you're being attacked on your very basics. But back to my overriding answer to your question, will it take place? I can't see this group of lads not turning up for a game that means so much to them and the supporters themselves, who currently will be on their side in terms of trying to find a fair and equitable way out of it. But public sentiment shifts very quickly when you don't turn up and sing a national anthem and play the big game of the season.
Take us back to that incident you were talking about. I mean, for any player to play for their country is huge, isn't it? But we're talking about Wales here. It's in their very DNA with rugby, isn't it?
Yeah.
It pumps through their veins.
Yeah.
Was it that idea? I don't want to be remembered as Will, the man who went on strike. Is that what it was?
I mean, we had all the superstars there. You know, it was Martin Johnson, Lawrence Delallier, Matt Dawson, all on sort of our players' union committee. We were represented by, I think, CS Stella management. We were advised that we should go and see the current CEO, Francis Barron, and let's play the Australia game first. Let's get that out of the way. We'd had a good summer tour. We'd won a test in South Africa. We'd just failed to win the Grand Slam by being beaten by Scotland in the rain in Murrayfield. Let's beat Australia first game up, and then let's go to Francis and ask him to shift the component of our contract to reward us. More in a fixed part rather than a variable part. I think we were on, and apologies if I've got the numbers, I think we were on £500 to play and £500 to win, and I think we wanted to shift it to £750 to play and £500 to win. And those were the numbers when rugby first turned professional, that international players were getting paid. So we went on strike, and for 3 days we walked out of Penny Hill Park, and Clive Woodward was ringing around furiously to say, if you're not back on training on Wednesday, I'll go down to the 4th Division and pick players instead. So there was that threat that the coach wouldn't pick you in the background, and then there was obviously the threat or the fear of public perception of being a team that doesn't show up. And so we went back, we had a long discussion about it. I realised that some of the players were a little unsure what was going on, because I did a John Snow swingometer on a piece of paper, which I kept. I haven't brought it in today, just to track how the meeting was going. And at the start, it looked like 70 to 75% of the players would walk, and it slowly moved the other way. And I then realised we'd lost the players when I think it took just under 6 minutes for the first paper aeroplane to fly across the room, and you suddenly realise that actually a lot of the lads just want to play rugby, don't understand really what's going on in this concept, and just want to get on and play. So I can't say I know many of these Welsh players, but I fear as it gets closer to the deadline that James Cole is talking about, they will understand that this is a tanker that needs turning around, that Nigel Walker, the CEO of the WIU, has offered a pot of money to the regions. The regions then have to work out how they distribute that, how much they fight for the 60 cap rule. And the 60 cap rule, which James talked about, the players would want to go to zero, they'd want to be able to leave, but the regions themselves actually might be slightly counter to that, because they don't want to lose their best players, because then who will turn up and watch the Ospreys and the Scarlets if the best players go? So that's why I talk about 3 people in this marriage. It's not insurmountable. Time is not a massive issue. Gatland always announces his team early anyway, so announcing it Thursday is when Steve Borthwick will announce his. Just gives everyone a little bit more time. But I think, and I would imagine if you were asking me to predict, they will step back from the brink and find a way to say, we will find a way around this, but it may not be before Saturday. But the players will show.
Well, I mean, there are obviously, there's more than 2 sides to this story, because you mentioned the 60 cap rule and regional rugby as well. But you mentioned, you know, these players paying their mortgages or buying their shopping or whatever, and you're a long time retired, and your body could be paying the spread. So you can see that side of it. Yeah. You can see the other side as well. But
rugby players, sports people live their life in reverse order to most normal human beings. The classic generalisation there. But most people arrive at Sky on day one and they fetch the water or the coffee, and they run around, you go and find a few notes, and you might get sent out to do a junior report, and take you back to your perhaps early years, and you grow and you get a little bit greyer, and you get to host.
That would never happen to
You
me.
get to host, you sort of go and you sort of go up the ladder. Rugby players and professional sports, men and women, might climb Everest at 25. And then it's another 50 years, and actually you then have to go and live in the real commercial world. There's not enough money in rugby specifically to retire on when you finish at 32. You've got to go find a job. And so what the players are wanting to do is obviously maximise their earnings whilst they're in their possible peak earning powers. There aren't many international sportsmen now who go on and make way more money post-sport than they did when they're playing for their country. So these are their peak earning years, and you perhaps might only play 50 or 60 times for your country. So you want to be recompensed fairly enough. When you see 75,000 people singing hymns and arias and the regimental goat leading the team out, and you go, well, they're here to see us, we're the gladiators, and I've just, by the way, dislocated my shoulder, I'm not going to play for 2 years. All these sorts of things come into play. But I keep coming back to, right, OK, but lads, so we're going to walk now, you're not going to play against England on Saturday. So I get all that transactional, financial thought process that are going through their head. But I also know that, by and large, players just want to play. And I think that's what we'll see out come Saturday. I'll be there on Saturday at 4:45, fully expecting Alan Wynne-Jones and Ken Owens, the captain, on the right-hand side, to be in tracksuits, singing "Guide Me, O Thou Great Redeemer."
You said in your day, Clive Woodward said, OK, I'll go down to the 4th Division and pick someone there. Did you understand him not backing you in what you wanted? And how difficult is this for Warren Gatland right now? Because I guess he has some loyalty and some feeling towards the players, but at the same time,
well, Clive was,
he understands the other side as well.
So Clive was sort of the middleman in between. Our beef was with the CEO. And wanting the extra £250, Clive just wanted to keep building a team that could go on to win the World Cup, and was desperate to play against Argentina and keep building it up. So from where he was sitting, there's certainly no thought process in my head ever that Clive had taken the other side. I could see exactly where his position was, but we stayed close as players. We were led fabulously, as always, on and off the field by Martin Johnson, and we came to a decision on the Thursday afternoon that we must relent, we must sign the contract that has been offered, and we must turn up and represent our country and potentially see the bigger picture of what this team might be able to do and the memories we might be able to create, and look beyond. I mean, it's the £250 that threatened, that could have seen us remembered as the team that didn't show, and that's a pretty rubbish tag to have above your mantelpiece as you grow old.
Yeah, wonderful to see you, Will, as always.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed.